So when you have 3/4 of a year, and you're trying to find out how many months is that, can I do that in my head? Yes. Do I want you to do it in your head? No, I don't. I want you to show me what's going on in your head. You have to show me what steps you did to get the number. Please stop playing with that little bag and pay attention. So it's 3/4 times the 1 year. This is the one little extra step that I threw in there repeatedly that I didn't see one person do. 3/4 times the 1 year. And see, right there, you did it in your head, and I'm telling you, don't do that. 3/4 times the 1 year. 3/4 times 1 year, and you're switching it to months. 1 year is what? 12 months, because you're going from a big unit to a small unit. So it's not a fraction. It's a whole number. So now that I'm doing, and in all of the stuff, when I was scoring the last quiz, I did not see anyone do this. Not one person. They did it in their heads. And out of those 8 problems, most people got 1 right. I mean, I was mark, 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 mark. And it was very upsetting. Because on something, if you had like 5/12 for an answer, they were dividing 5 into 12. Because they treated this like an improper fraction, which this is not. Yes, ma'am. So what do you get? What? How did you get 9?
Because I multiplied, well, at first I multiplied 12 and 3, and I got 36, and 4 times 4 is 4, and I divided it by 4 into 36, and 9 times 4 is 36.
Because this is improper and you don't leave it. Because the bigger number's on top. 36 divided by 4 is 9. Showing the steps is not wrong. Showing the steps is what you are supposed to do. 33 times 12 is 36. 4 times 1 is 4. 36 divided by 4. 9. You show your work. You show your steps. That I know at least 2 people did not write down because they're looking over there. Nice, beautiful, blank piece of paper, which is why we don't know how to do stuff. And then we have a test and we go, I don't know what to do. Yes. Yes. Because when you do this, this is what you kind of, when you're going from this to what you're changing it to, this is when you're knowing whether you're going from a big unit to a small unit or a small unit to a big unit. That's why I add this one extra thing. 3/5 of a meter to centimeters. No. 3/5 times 1 meter. All I'm doing is I'm taking this and I'm breaking it apart. 1 meter. C-E-N-T is what? 100. How many centimeters? 1 meter is equal to how many centimeters? 100. 1 meter is 100 centimeters. You're thinking 39 inches in a meter. That's inches. If you would have your little conversion chart out that you made, 3/5 times 100. 3/5 times 100 over 1. This will tell you how many centimeters are in 3/5 of a meter. Yes, Eli? Whichever.
3 times 1 equals 300, and 5 times 1 equals 5. So you have to divide 5 divided by 3.
300 divided by 5.
Okay, and then 5 divided by 30 equals
30 divided by 5.
30 divided by 5 equals 6, which says you can't do the 0, so you put 0 and it's 60. So yeah, 300 divided by 5 is 60. Then I checked it because I didn't know if it was 60, so I just multiplied 5 times 60.
It's like 60 centimeters. So I want you to do 5/12 of an hour in 2 minutes and show your work. And 2/3 of a yard into inches. Show your work. Five 12ths times 1 hour. Five 12ths. 1 hour is 60 minutes. You can do 5 times 60, which is 300 over 12. Yes. 2. Get 25 minutes. Or 12 goes into 12 once, 12 goes into 65 times. You do standard 2.0. Either way, you get 25 minutes. Yes. What? What?
Also divide 60 by 12, and then you get 5.
You mean that? Right there? I know. What you just said, but I just did right there. Two-thirds times 1 yard. One yard is how many inches? 36 inches. Not 3 inches. Two times 36.
72.
72. Now you did. Yeah, one, four. Either way. 24. Oh, wow, word problems. Whatever shall we do? Oh, let's see. Will you read it? At the market, Miss Wynn bought 3/4 pound of grapes and 5/8 pound of cherries. How many ounces of grapes did Miss Wynn buy? I think we can solve that. How many ounces of cherries did she buy? How many more ounces of grapes than cherries did she buy? I think you can answer every single one of those questions. If Mr. Phillips bought 1 3/4 pounds of raspberries, who bought more fruit? Miss Wynn or Mr. Phillips? How many ounces more? So D is a little bit more complex, but you guys can answer every single one of those questions if you actually try. If you actually paid attention to the questions, you could. And it's not just the people who answer the questions every single time. If you showed your work, did the steps, and didn't just sit back and wait for us to give you the answers, you can do it. And I'm going to pull sticks and ask. So figure it out. A, B, C, and D. You have to do all 4. How many ounces did she buy?
12.
How many ounces did she buy?
12.
How many of you actually did the work? And you got 12.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you actually do the work? She bought 3/4 of a pound, and you need to switch that to ounces. 3/4 times 1 pound. 1 pound is
16.
what? I did 15. You say 15?
15.
16 ounces. 3/4 times 16. 16. 3 times 16 is 48. 48 divided by 4. 48 divided by 4 is
12.
12. No remainder, so no fraction. It's 12. 12 ounces. That's what your work should look like. No, there's no couldn't answer. Yeah.
You could also do chocolate.
There's nothing. No remainder. You get a whole number. 48 divided by 4 is 12. Because 4 times 12 is 48. There's no fraction. No remainder. No fraction. How many ounces of cherries did she buy?
10.
What?
10.
What?
10.
How many of you actually did the work for that one? Don't lie. If you didn't do it, don't raise your hand. 5/8 ounce. 5/8 pounds is how many ounces? So 5/8 times 1 pound. I'm breaking it apart. Same steps every single time. 1 pound, 16 ounces. If I'm going from small to big, this would be a fraction. But I'm going big to small, so it's a whole number. That's why I do it. 5/8 times 16 ounces. 5 times 16. 80 divided by 8 is 10. No fraction. It's not 10 over 8.
It's 10 out of 60.
No. 80 divided by 8. 8 goes into 8 once. Stop tipping the deck. There is no remainder. Stop keeping. Stop changing the rules. There's nothing to be confused about. 8. It's always been 80 divided by 8. If you had that on a fact drill, would you all of a sudden make it a fraction? So why are you making it a fraction here? I don't know. You're changing the rules. Stop changing the rules. Remainder is a 0. Then it's a whole number. The only time you make it a fraction, I'm not fussing at you, I just get irritated because y'all do that so much. There's not a 16. Do you see a 16? Do you see a 16? There's no 16. It's 10 with nothing over 8. When you have nothing as your remainder, there is no fraction. It's a whole number. 8 goes into 80 10 times. Whole number. Stop making a fraction. Stop looking at your finger. Your finger's not that cool. Neither is the ring. I got rings on. I don't. Pay attention. 8 goes into 80 10 times, period. 10 times 8 is 80. There's no fraction. No fraction. 10. 10. You're confusing yourself because you're trying to make it a fraction. I'm not confusing you. You are confusing you. How many more ounces of grapes than cherries? Grapes. Cherries. 2. 2 ounces. 2. How many of you actually got to D? If you didn't, don't lie.
It's right here.
If Mr. Phillips bought 1 3/4 pounds of raspberries, who bought more fruit? Don't guess. If you got it finished, who bought more fruit?
Mr. Phillips.
How much more fruit?
6 ounces.
6 ounces more. So there are a couple different ways that you could have solved this problem. The way that I solved it may not have been the way that you solved it. I may have made it harder. Who knows? I have a tendency to do that. You know, because the way that I solved it isn't the way that Alea solved it. So, because sometimes I'll be checking your tests, and when I see the way that you solve the problem, I go, oh, I didn't think about it that way. And it ends up being a whole lot easier. Kid brain tends to sometimes take it a little bit simpler. I go, oh. But see, I have a lot more math strategies than y'all. So there is no, no shame in my game. Sometimes if I make it harder, I go, it's fine. I'm just a lot more meticulous in my math just to make sure that I'm getting it right. I'll put more steps in there. So I'm not the one who's having to do this again because I didn't do it right the first time. Okay. Oh, we'll see.
You haven't done it yet.
We'll see.
Oh no. Yeah.
1 3/4 pounds. What I did is, since I knew that I was going to have to do ounces, I went ahead and I went from 1 3/4 pounds to ounces. Now, Alea, I know that she went ahead and she turned this into an improper fraction. I didn't. I kept it as a mixed because I know that I can do a mix times a whole. Just some of y'all forget that, and that's okay. 16 times 1 is 16. 16 times 3 is 48. Do not multiply the whole number times the denominator. Denominator stays the same. 16 plus 12 is 28. So he was 28 ounces. That's how I did it. Because the way that Alea did it, she did 7/4 of a pound. So she just turned it into an improper fraction. 7/4 times 16. Just because I didn't want to do 7 times 16. See, that's 112. Then you've got to divide 4 into 112.
No, are you good?
2. See, there's more than one way to do it. 8. You still get 28. See, there's just more than one way to do it. Ma'am? What did you do, Mia?
So I know 1 pound is 16 ounces and 3/4 of a pound is 12 ounces. So I added these two together and I 28. And then I what it is, 12 ounces. 12
Okay, so that sounds like a whole lot of work.
It's not. I just did 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the way she
Yeah, the way you're explaining, I'm like, good googly moogly. Okay, so you knew, because you'd already done it, that 3/4 of a pound was 12 ounces because that was in the previous problem. 1 pound is 16, and then 16 plus 12 was 28. Got that. That's 28 there. And then, so Phillips. So we already know that Phillips had more. So we answered the first question. And then how many ounces more? 28 minus 22 was 6 ounces. So there's 3 different ways to answer those questions. So there's my way, there's Alea's way, there's Mia's way. So, oh yeah, and there is 2.0. 1, 4, 28. So there's 4 ways. There's Tamaya, where she did standard 2.0. Oh, I did. Oh, God, Daniel. All right. I can only imagine. Thank you. Okay, we'll do this one, and then we will move on to something else. It should look very, very familiar.
Oh, yeah.
A gardener, and then y'all would get this wrong because you would subtract. A gardener has 10 pounds of soil. And you would subtract 10 minus 5/8. He used 5/8 of the soil. 5/8 of the soil. Uh-huh. How many pounds of the soil did he use in the garden? How many pounds did he have left? But so many of y'all went 10 minus 5/8. And then you would go, what would you say? Yes. So, but that's not it. Why am I hearing a decimal? I don't know why I'm hearing a decimal, because we're not having anything over a 10 or anything over 100. There should not be a decimal anywhere. 628. Of the soil that multiply by a fraction. Shamar, what do you need? Showing your work that I have repeatedly said to do. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that you look at someone's paper. You know, funny thing about 6 and 2/8?
It can be simple.
It can be simplified.
64.
Because that could be simplified by 2. 6 and 1/4. What's funny about 2/8? It can get smaller. 6 and 1/4. So he has 10. He used 6 and 1/4. You cannot subtract from a whole number without slicing up one of those pizzas. I cannot take a fraction from a whole number. I cannot take off a slice of pizza without slicing that pizza. I cannot eat 1/4 of a pizza when that pizza has not been cut up. So I have to take one of those pizzas and slice it. So I can either have, even though this does not make me happy, but either 10 minus 6 and 2/8, or 10 minus 6 and 1/4. Take one of those pizzas and slice it up. And now I have 9 whole pizzas, and one of the whole ones is cut up into 4ths, or 9 whole pizzas and one of them is cut into 8ths. Now I can subtract. So 9 minus 6 is 3. 4 minus 1 is 3. 9 minus 6 is 3. 8 minus 2 is 6. The reason why I still push simplifying your fractions, if this were a question on the EQT and it happened to be multiple choice, you won't see 3 and 6/8. You won't see it. You'll see 3 and 3/4. No. They won't have the unsimplified version. They won't have it. It's not wrong. This is not incorrect because they are equivalent. They're equal to each other. So 3 and 6/8 is not wrong. It's just not simplified. So if this is a multiple choice answer, you're not going to see this, because on a multiple choice test, you are going to find the simplified version of it. That's why I keep pushing simplify your fractions, because you're only going to find the simplified versions. And then for some reason, and I'm not saying anybody, but I still see at least one person turning this into this. You do not. When I've never taught that ever, ever, never, 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 never. That doesn't work. That's not how that works. That's in I don't know how to do math land. That's not how you do that. That's 6 and 28/100. This is 6 and 2/8. You don't even say it the same. How you say it is how you write it. 6 and 2/8. 6 and 28/100. Not the same. 6 and 28/100. Not the same. It's not the same. I know. So some of y'all like write things weird because you don't know what to do with your numbers, and so you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna make it a decimal. Stop. You're making up your own stuff. Okay.